Okay, this video is going to give you a quick overview as to how to do t-tests, both dependent and independent t-tests in SPSS. Now keep in mind the details for these examples are in the SPSS guide, so you can find that in Canvas. There's a detailed description of the study and how it's organized and how to do all of these steps in SPSS. But I'm going to show you here because sometimes showing can help. So the key is organizing your data as always. We have a subject identification number. We have a group designation number. This is a between subjects design. So everybody who's in one group gets a group of 1, a group value of 1, and everybody who's in the other group gets a group value of 2. This of course is our dependent variable, which is recall. So now you've entered the data properly. You want to do an independent t-test. So you're going to analyze, and you're going to go down to compare means. And this is where you would select, you could select a one sample t-test if you were testing from a hypothesized value. In this case, we're doing an independent samples t-test. So we're going to click that, and we have our test variable. This is equivalent to your dependent variable. So we're testing recall. That's what we're examining. And our grouping variable, in this case, I called it group. You could call it whatever you want, but we pop our grouping variable in there. Now SPSS is going to ask you to define the values of those groups. So this is where we used 1 for group 1 and we used a 2 for group 2. And if you click OK, it's going to run. And so there's a couple of important pieces of information that come out in the output. So you have your recall, and then you can have, using the value labels command, you can look at that in SPSS for help, and there's another example in the SPSS guide about how to do this. But you could label your group, have SPSS label your groups. There's an N of 25 in each of these groups. Here's the mean, standard deviation, and standard error for both of those groups. So this is important descriptive information. This is what you would put into Excel to make a bar graph, for example. And then in the output, for an independent test, you'll get first a test for the equality of variances. So this tests to see if you have homogeneity of variance, right? If it's significant, that means that your variances in your two groups differ. And you would need to adjust for that with some sort of correction factor. This is the t-value, and in this case it's a minus 2.059, and of course the negative is meaningless. It's all dependent on which group mean is larger. So it's a t.0259, your degrees of freedom. Significance, so this is your p-value, and it's less than 0.05, so it's statistically significant. Now the other stuff over here, this is your confidence intervals, and as you can see, the confidence interval does not contain 0, so that would be also tell you that it was statistically significant. So that's an independent t-test. Let's open up the dependent t-test file, and so there I'm going to open up the data file, and this is the within subjects data file, and it's organized a little bit differently to do a dependent t-test. In this case, your subject identification, still have that. So here we have a total of 58 subjects, right? And we have a measure for each person. We have 2 measures for each person. In this example, people were drawing space creatures. And it'll give you some background of that in the SPSS guide. And so we just counted the number of features that were copied from the examples in their various space creatures. And so what we're going to do is analyze to see if there's a difference in how much information they copied in these 2 space creatures. And so what we do is you're going to have a measure for, kind of like the Pearson R, you're going to have a measure for each person. You've got to have, because it's a dependent T within subjects, you've got to have data points for both. Otherwise, you can't analyze it within subjects. So we go to analyze, compare means. Instead of independent samples, you're going to select paired samples, t-test. You'll get a window. And your window is going to ask for the pair, right? So you're going to click on 1, and you're going to click on 2, right? So you're going to click 1, hold down the space. Hold down the shift key and click again to select the second variable, and you pop them over. There's your pair. Okay. You have some options over here. You can always click on that to sort of see what you want to do, but then you click OK, and you're going to get an output that's similar to the independent t-test. Here's your descriptive statistics, right? And here's your paired samples t-test. Now, it puts the confidence interval stuff on the left, and on the right is the information that you're seeking. So the t-value 2.176, sorry, degrees of freedom 57, and then your p-value, which is less than 0.05. So of course it is statistically significant. So that's the information that you would extract. That's how you do a t-test in SPSS.